From birth, we're taught to see our flaws, our inadequacies, all the different ways in which we are less than everybody else. But what if every part of us was actually perfectly designed for our soul's purpose? In today's episode, that's what I want to explore. Our divine design, our divine purpose, and the true nature of our life experience. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me on the Light Journal podcast. I'm Jamie Perez. From the time we're born, we're reminded, told, or scolded into believing that we are far less than perfect. Now, if we don't learn it from our parents and our siblings, then we're going to learn it from all the marketers out there who show us all the ways in which we don't live up to some artificial, contrived idea of perfection. And yet, when we listen to what Spirit has to say on the matter, it isn't focused on our inadequacies and flaws, but on our perfection. And it isn't perfection in the way that humans tend to define perfection. This is about perfection for purpose, our unique purpose. We have all been custom designed to meet the needs of our higher self. That customization process means that we might have some intellectual, physical, or psychological challenges that others don't have. That customization process means that every one of us have some obsessions, tics, peculiarities, strengths, and weaknesses that make life challenging for us on one level or another. And more than likely, they are difficulties we would have preferred not to experience. But we are customized for this life journey by our divine self because our divine self wants to have that particular experience. Perfection is never about attaining some artificial human standard, about being normal, or about fitting in. Divine perfection refers to being what we need to be so we can have the experience that we, on a soul level, predetermined that we wanted to have. Now, I know that can be a troubling idea because a lot of us have had some really hard experiences in life. And life can and is very painful and can be very discouraging. I know for myself, for over 40 years, I followed my passion, which was writing. I just loved to write. I would write fiction, nonfiction, articles, and everything else, just trying to become a successful writer, and it just never happened. 40 years, I persisted, and from what I could tell, I had very little to show for it, until I was kind of broken, and I just gave up. And it was really funny, when I finally gave up on what I was trying to achieve, that's when I finally understood what I was doing and why I was doing it. Writing was never about being successful. Now, I know that sounds like a cop-out, but I'm talking about from a spirit level, not from a physical level. Those 40 years were about the journey, not the outcome. Every book that I wrote was a learning experience that changed me. I took abstract, complicated religious beliefs and I waded through all kinds of research to try and decide whether or not the things that I was basing my entire existence upon was true, and I wrote books about that. And so each phase I delved into different things because that's where I was at. And I came to recognize that that was the only way I was ever going to escape my religious beliefs, was by putting it on paper and seeing how convoluted and unsustainable and irrational those beliefs were, because so much of it's just dogma. And when you take the dogma out and you look at what actually the Bible in that case actually says, it doesn't withstand that kind of close scrutiny. So I needed to go through that writing journey to actually come out at the end, but I wouldn't have come out at the end if I hadn't gone through the journey. And the only way I was going to do a really good job of exploring those topics was by writing it. I was learning through teaching, which is actually a well-known instructional method, learning through writing. And I was learning through writing, learning through teaching. And as a result, I had to make some decisions as to who and what I was going to be after I came out at the end without a belief system. Boy, was that ever challenging. But once again, writing came into the story, and through writing I was able to construct a new belief system that was rational, that contained all the aspects and elements I needed to trust again, because I had totally lost my trust as a result of my earlier studies through writing. So that was an example of where I was perfectly designed for the task at hand. I was perfectly designed because I was obsessed with writing. I was perfectly designed because I love research, and I'm really good at distilling a lot of information, putting it into concrete terms, and coming up with a singular unifying concept. And that's what I did. And so I was particularly well designed for that. And that's the thing. Each one of us have different strengths, different weaknesses, different peculiarities and obsessions, different situations, different circumstances that kind of push us and direct us along a certain path. And that's custom designed for you, just like it was custom designed for me. Your path is not my path. My path is not your path. They're all different. Because contrary to popular belief, life isn't about the outcome, but about the journey getting there. And if you're anything like me, that's where you're going to find your struggle. It is so much easier to point your gaze into the distant future and put your ambitions into the distant future than to actually be living in this present moment. I've spent a lifetime planning for a future that will probably never occur, because it's my moment-to-moment existence that creates the future. So saying things like, when I do that, or if I do that, well, that's just putting off my present behaviors right now and right here. Anyway, so it's about the struggle and challenges of our day-to-day life that actually transform us. It's not that future perfect moment when I'm going to be able to do this, that, or the other. No, we're custom designed to arrive at our ultimate destination, but we're custom designed for how to get there. Now, I've played a lot of different roles in my life, and I've been defined by all those different roles. I've been defined by my relationships to others. I've been a daughter, sister, friend, church member, college student, wife, mother, and most recently, a grandmother. I've also been defined by the work that I do. I've been a writer, secretary, soldier, counselor, stay-at-home mom, entrepreneur. I served as a prison liaison, an instructional designer, and so many other things. I've also been defined by all my beliefs. I've been known as a Christian, a Messianic, an apostate, and then just as a searcher and a shamanic practitioner, a New Ager, and currently I have no clue what I would define myself as, so I don't even have a term for it. But every role I've played has taught me something really important about life, love, compassion, self-acceptance, and openness. These are all things that I wouldn't have learned if I hadn't had to go through those struggles, those very painful struggles. I've learned the things that I've learned because I was perfectly custom designed to work through life experiences that I decided on the spirit level, I decided I wanted to work through. The way that I think, the things I value, the way I feel, and so much more are uniquely my own. They are a distinct combination of form, which refers to my body. It's a combination of the form, the personality, ego, and consciousness. Yes, I have gotten impatient with life at times because things have been very hard at different phases. And there were several times I just didn't want to be here anymore. But as I pushed through the hard times, I became stronger. My attitude towards challenges began to change. I started seeing the learning as I was learning instead of dwelling on the struggle. And as my perspective changed, so did my experience. I started seeing how Spirit was working in, through, and as me. Life experiences began to take on a feeling of play and gamesmanship. I started asking Spirit, so what is this new experience going to teach me? Or how do these lessons build on one another? Or why do I need to experience this? Or is there another way that I can gain the necessary knowledge without the suffering? It was like leveling up in a game. As I gained experience, I was able to more easily handle the more difficult circumstances. Now, this leveling up process doesn't happen overnight. It comes through practice and paying attention to the lessons that you're learning. Instead of focusing on the suffering, you got to learn how to focus on the learning. One of the ways that I've learned to do this is through affirmations that remind me I am Spirit, an emanation of the divine, here to experience limitations and constraints, because neither limitation nor constraints exist for the divine. My spirit came here to experience struggles and limitations. Why? Because there are no limitations and constraints at the spirit level. Where there are no limitations, guess what? Limitations become the game. Where there are no constraints at the spirit level, well, constraints become the game. Where there are no rules, then rules become the game. We are divinity playing by making itself smaller, constrained, and limited. And that's the role our body, ego, and personality play. Because the design of our body limits how far we can go and what we can do. The design of our ego limits our ability to see beyond the I, self. And the design of our personality creates a sense of distinctiveness or separation and difference from everything else. So when you combine all those things together, a distinct ego, a distinct body, and a distinct personality, then you put in a distinct situation and a distinct environment with its own distinct rules and a distinct world within a distinct universe. And man, you have a formula for God at play in a trillion different ways. So while people are obsessed with why God made them this way, or let this or that happen, or they're crying, why me? The divinity within each of us is seeing this experience as play. Yeah, we're suffering, and the divine self within us is learning and seeing the situation as play. It is experiencing itself through the frustrations, challenges, limitations, and uniquely customized experiences of being you or me. Forgetting who we are is a huge part of this experience. By our forgetfulness, we're forced to have an authentic experience. And when our time in this body ends, we don't die. We, the higher self, simply leave this form, personality, and ego and go on to the next adventure, enriched by this life experience, but not limited or damaged by it. That's an important point. And that's why Spirit can see all of our experiences as play. It is never damaged by it. So regardless of what it is you're experiencing in this life, you, the higher self, are not damaged by this. You grow through this. It's like playing a video game and then leaving that game avatar behind in the screen so that we could go play a different video game and use a different avatar. It's the same idea. There are ways to improve our experience of this life, but it comes down to recognizing who and what we are and why we are here. It's by changing our perception of life That is how our life improves. I know it sounds like this really easy peasy oversimplification of a very complicated existence, but it is true. How we perceive our experience changes how we experience it. If we see ourselves as helpless, then that's how we experience life. If we see ourselves as victims, then that is how we experience life. If we see ourselves as spirit playing a game on earth through the ego, personality, and body that we're inhabiting, then that's how we experience life. When you change your perception, you change your life, whether for the better or for the worse, depending on which perception you take on. That's why two people undergoing the same challenges will have completely different experiences. And regardless of how you choose to experience life, it is still spirit playing the game of life through your ego, personality, and form. I personally do many affirmations every day as a way of reminding myself that I am spirit in form. One of those affirmations is this: I am divinity experiencing life through the ego, personality, and form of Jamie. And there's a second affirmation that I usually follow up with: divinity is flowing in, through, and as me. And if you want to, you can throw in a third affirmation that I pull from the work of Paul Selig. I know who I am in truth, what I am in truth, and how I serve in truth. None of us are flawed. We are exactly how divinity wants us to be in order to experience life through us as us. Our limitations, constraints, and environment are all parts of the divine game itself. Our role is to overcome the game and rise victorious in remembrance of our true self, the divine player of the game. Thank you for spending time with me. I hope today's podcast reminded you that you are not a mistake. You are a masterpiece of divine intention. Every challenge, quirk, and strength is part of your soul's unique design. You are here on purpose for a purpose. If this message spoke to you, could you take a moment and like, subscribe, and share it with others who are on this similar journey? Blessings on your journey, everyone.